Hey Mike, just want to let you know that I've completed the inspection. I got all the necessary data and measurements. Let's go ahead and take a seat at the kitchen table. That way I can tell you exactly what's at the root cause of your foundation wall failing, as well as what options are available and the groundwork solution. So all of my homeowners really appreciate understanding fully exactly why their foundation wall is failing. So I have a few different slides as well as videos that can help illustrate exactly what's going on with your home. So at the very beginning, let's just get a good understanding of how your home was built initially. So first, concrete footing is installed, then you have your concrete slab as well as the foundation exterior wall. What's butted up against that wall, which is creating all the pressure and giving you visible signs down in the basement as to a good reason to call groundworks, is that you have two types of soil on the exterior. One being the compacted virgin soil. So that is Mother Nature's untouched soil, compacted over millions of years, nothing better. Now what you have here is loose backfill soil. Now we refer to this as the active wedge. It's unstable soil. So when initially the builders had to construct a home, they needed some surface area to go ahead and work, pour that concrete, build the wall, etc., get the house completely filled. At the tail end of the job, what they end up doing is backfilling this active wedge area with soil. Now, the sheer weight of soil, it weighs anywhere from about 80 to 100 pounds per square foot. So you can imagine that's thousands of pounds being backfilled into that wedge area. Now, this is a good representation of what soil may look like during the dry seasons. You see a lot of gaps and voids in between the soil. What happens is during the summer months, your soil that's compacted will end up shrinking and compressing, creating voids and gaps and little pockets inside the soil. So best way to think of that is, that Scotch-Brite green and yellow wash pad that everybody had in their kitchen sink. Essentially, wash your dishes, you leave it out on the kitchen counter in some sun. Eventually that Brillo pad really shrinks and becomes really dry and brittle. Same thing's happening in this active wedge during the summer months when it's really hot. Now, when those voids and gaps are created, what it's doing is creating tons of pathways for water to seep into during the rainy seasons. So the thousands of pounds of soil still remains, but now add on additional weight because each gallon of water that gets absorbed by the soil that's butted up next to your exterior foundation wall is now pressing against it as well. And that is called hydrostatic pressure. So 1 gallon of water is an additional 8 pounds of weight. So now you can only imagine how much pressure is being applied not only to your footing, but the exterior foundation wall. Now, to make matters worse, when it really becomes winter and you guys get that snow coming in and it freezes, what ends up happening is when that frost actually defrost, we're talking about an additional 9% of expansion. So all that added pressure is being applied to your home's foundation. So you have a variety of reasons, all having to do with the soil that's been compacted on the exterior of your foundation. Does that all make sense? Are we tracking so far? Okay, so the soil on the exterior wall of your foundation really is to blame here, okay? Now, in your case, you have a poured concrete cement wall as your foundation, right? And reasons for concern are these different stages where you have initial vertical cracking. That would be considered stage 1. Stage 2 is tipping. So what ends up happening as this becomes more severe, the cracks become greater, and you can see the wedging has become wider. This is no longer one piece of concrete slab. It is visibly cut into three. So you have three separate pieces of concrete that are now acting independently of one another. And you have all this pressure being applied by the exterior soil on the outside of your foundation home. What's happening too is this tipping is occurring because the top of the foundation wall is actually bowing over. The reason being is it's being tripped by the footing. Does that make sense? Now, what I'll do is I'll share with you my detailed design drawings as well as the measurements. And, we can circle back and I can show you with a laser if you like, but I did take a number of photos that have my tape measure as well as proof that this is what's occurring. So ultimately, this potentially could happen, not to say that it will, but depending on which options you choose, it is a possibility. So, there is no denying the importance of getting this fixed and repaired, but I will show you what options are available and what some homeowners choose to do, as well as the groundwork solution that I know is tailor fit for your specific needs due to the soil issues that you have with your foundation wall. So you never have to deal with this issue ever again. So let's go ahead and walk you through what some of the options are. One is that you do absolutely nothing, which, having me out here today, you noticing the visible signs and those three different separate pieces of concrete. Also, I've showed you the different laser levels, measurements. I'm pretty confident just in the conversation that we had that, doing nothing is really off the table. Am I safe to say that? Are you okay with wiping that out? Because, last thing we would ever want to hear or see is your foundation wall completely collapsing. Now, let's go ahead and strike that from the table. Second option would be a do-it-yourself project. Many people think that they can go on YouTube and tackle this project themselves. Now, this is where I give some pushback because they're not specialty contractors. They're not experienced craftsmen in foundation repair. They have limited access to the supplies available at the local hardware store, which typically tend to be lumber. And in this scenario, we've already discussed that there's thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds of pressure being compressed against your foundation wall by the soil, that active wedge. And then it only gets more pressurized during the rainy and frosty seasons when you have additional weight as well as expansion occurring. So can you see how adding a couple of lumber pieces may not suit you for repairing your home? Does that make sense? Okay. So let's go ahead and scratch the YouTube University. You're not going to be enrolling in that. No need to explore the DIY project anymore, right? Okay, cool. Lastly, you could hire a general contractor. Now, that's what I mean, general contractor, a jack of all trades, where you're speaking with me from Groundworks. We're a specialty contractor that deals in foundation repairs exclusively, in addition to basement waterproofing and some other things, but Groundworks is our specialty. It's our bread and butter. It's what we do all day long. But if you were to explore the general contractor route, what they would suggest is a full foundation replacement. Now, this is by far the most expensive, most intrusive option available to you as a homeowner. Now, what this would entail is gutting your entire foundation. They would bring in excavators. You'd probably be looking at ruining the landscaping that it looks like you worked so hard on outside, just so they'd have access to remove the foundation walls as well as the footing. You'd be cut off from all utilities, so you wouldn't be living in the home for multiple months, and you we're both aware that the weather could be finicky. They would have to lay down new footing, which takes about 28 days to cure. They'd have to re-pour the concrete foundation, which takes another 28 days to cure, assuming that weather conditions are ideal, that you don't have any rain or any snow. Let's assume that their project at the fastest is completed within that window of 28 days. After another 28 days, at a bare minimum, you're looking at being out of the home for at least 2 months. Plus, in addition to ruining your landscape, possibly have to relocate that HVAC unit. So, like I said, the cost can continue to stack up over and over and over. Whereas Groundworks, we just do it better. We have the ultimate solution. I've tailored the specific solution needed for your specific situation here. And our engineer department team feels and knows and is confident that this is the best solution. And I actually have a video to share with you that will illustrate exactly how we would go ahead and repair your foundation wall. So let's go ahead and take a look.
When the walls that support your home begin cracking, leaning and bowing, you may begin to wonder, is this house safe? Unstable walls can create doubt and concern for both homeowners and home buyers alike. When basement walls become a safety concern, the Settle Stop wall anchor system is the answer. Each Settle Stop wall anchor consists of a galvanized plate that's connected to an earth anchor with a high-density 1-inch steel rod. The wall anchor is tightened to combat the forceful soil pressure, which commonly causes walls to fail. The Settle Stop wall anchor system is durable, minimally invasive, and can be installed in as little as 1 day. The installation is straightforward. First, a small excavation takes place approximately 12 feet from your foundation wall. Next, a 1-inch hole is drilled through the basement wall. Then, the 1-inch steel rod is driven to the excavation point outside and attached to the heavy-duty earth anchor. And once in place, the steel plate is mounted on your wall and then tightened to the engineered specified torque reading. Your basement wall is now anchored in dense, stable soils. The Settle Stop wall anchor system is great for customers who want immediate stabilization and adjustability over time. The low-profile wall plates fit between wall studs and are ideal for future basement finishing. The Settle Stop wall anchor system is backed by a lifetime transferable warranty, so there's no need to worry about the structural stability of your foundation wall. We'd rather have you focused on the more important things in life.
How does that sound?